prior to the game, Dave Roberts was talking about Mookie Betts and the future that he sees for Mookie Betts. And we've talked on this show, what position is Mookie Betts going to be playing? Second base seems to be locked down by Gavin Lux, who's one of the best hitters on the Dodgers right now. The question was, would Mookie Betts move to the outfield? I had gone as far as to speculate, man, could they throw him in center field to solve some of these problems? Dave Roberts says he sees Mookie Betts at shortstop when he returns. That was the news. The second piece of news is that he's going to be batting second and not leadoff. Let's start with the shortstop piece of this, Anthony. Were you surprised that Dave Roberts was as definitive that Mookie Betts will be shortstop when he comes back in the next couple of weeks?
Not necessarily. I think your better offensive options are in the outfield. So that always sort of lended me to think that he'd be still in the infield.
Yeah.
Now, I thought it was possible he'd be playing second base, but with Lux coming on, he's making that a non-issue.
Yeah.
So yeah, I always thought that it was going to be him in the infield, because just for the simple fact that at the moment, the better offensive options, the better offensive potential is still in the outfield than it is in the infield. So that part of it didn't necessarily surprise me. They don't have a fix for that particular situation right now.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, this clarifies a lot, because this basically says, all right, if you can pencil Mookie Betts into shortstop, you can pencil Tommy Edman in as your everyday center fielder. Gavin Lux is going to be playing second base against righties. Ahmed Rosario will play second base against lefties. So basically the only question, presuming Max Muncy is back at third base, the only question is, what are they going to do in the corner outfield spots? Obviously, Teoscar is going to have one of those, but the other one is up for grabs. I speculated initially that Rosario would be hitting against righties out there. Dave Roberts apparently has no interest in that. He's spoken highly about Kike Hernandez, so maybe it's Kike Hernandez in against lefties. And then I honestly think a guy who's been struggling of late but had a good night tonight, I think Andy Pages could be the other guy. He's been the Dodgers' arguably one of their best hitters against righties. I believe he's hitting over 300 against righties on the season. So I could see Kike and Pages kind of being a platoon out there, and then the Dodgers lineup suddenly becomes set. Now, the reason I was surprised with Mookie Betts at shortstop is because is a Pages / Kike platoon in the outfield a better overall option than Miguel Rojas at shortstop, who is, by the way, expected to be back in a utility role shortly? But is Miguel Rojas at shortstop and Mookie Betts in right field? Is that not a better overall option than Mookie with average defense at shortstop and then a Pages, Kike Hernandez corner infield platoon?
I mean, it just depends. I mean, it was like 10 days ago where we were saying that Kike Hernandez shouldn't be on this team anymore.
It's true.
So, I think it just depends on what everybody's doing. Pages has been terrible, but lightning in a bottle, he can catch one on the barrel and he gives you a little bit of pop. Rojas he was already on the downhill swing offensively. We talked about people who are wanting him to play every day earlier in the season when everybody else was healthy, or at least relatively healthy, was like, if you keep running him out there, eventually, you're going to get the returns that we expected to get. And that had already started to happen. So again, I don't think there's a great fix either way. I think just the better of the bad options is leaving him in the infield for now.
Yeah, and I think, look, if Rojas comes back and hits a little bit, which, look, I said at the beginning, I couldn't believe Rojas was on this roster. He's one of the worst offensive players in baseball. He's been great. Him and Austin Barnes. Whoever wants to criticize the Dodgers coaches, have you seen what they turned Miguel Rojas and Austin Barnes into? These guys are like borderline average to above average offensive players this year. But I think if Rojas can come back and continue hitting, now if he's a utility role, maybe that isn't in his future, but I could just see a world where you value the defense at shortstop of Miguel Rojas. You don't want a Mookie Betts error on a routine ground ball at some point, or trouble turning a double play or something like that. Put Mookie in right field. We know he hasn't played a ton out there, but he knows that like the back of his hand, even if he's average to above average out there now. I just wonder if that's where this thing lands. I think for now, Pages, Kike, those types of guys are going to be in the mix, but I just wonder if Rojas can come back and hit, if he doesn't sort of squeeze himself back into that playing time equation.
If he hits, this is a different conversation. Um, I think though that later on in the season, if they're playing some big games or in the playoffs, you could see some defensive replacement situations where then maybe Mookie goes from short to right field, and an outfielder comes to the bench and Rojas goes in, all of that kind of stuff, all of that, playing Jenga with the defensive
Yeah.
lineup there. Possibly. Again, this is a dilemma that they have just based on sort of what's been going on with their roster.
Yeah.
And so, the dilemma is you have to choose between two things you don't necessarily want to choose between.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It's
so
fair.
you're trying to choose the better of two bad choices. Um, and again, Mookie is he a great shortstop? Not by any means, but he's about average,
Yeah.
you know, for what he's been, based on the numbers. He's about average. He's not killing you.
Yeah.
And I know, look, y- y- all everything that we're going to remember about Mookie Betts playing shortstop for this season is going to be the bad, because of what it
Yeah.
is. And
Yeah.
it's the nature of what we do. Um, he hasn't been absolutely atrocious. He hasn't been, and I know that's not a great bar to be setting, but he's been fine.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? And so, uh, again,
I
I
just
think
wonder
you have to put.
in the postseason, we've seen the Dodgers value the defense, the sort of the value of defense become maximized because of the little things become magnified in those games.
Absolutely,
And so
absolutely.
that's the part that scares me. Not that the moment's going to be too big for Mookie, but just if he is average. I mean, we saw Trey Turner, right? Trey Turner, when he was a shortstop for the Dodgers, he had those moments in the postseason where it was like, good Lord, this guy, he's
Yeah,
all over the place. And so
yeah.
those are the things that just become one little missed opportunity here or there could play the difference. And so
We
we'll
we
see.
say
We'll
that
see.
we say that, but and I see some of the comments agreeing with you, and you're not. It's not that you're wrong. It's that then do we shut our mouths and
Yeah.
be quiet when you have to run out
No, I know.
Miguel Rojas, who maybe he's hitting a buck 12 at that time,
Yeah.
or Ahmed Rosario, who might be hitting 211 at that. You know what I mean? Like,
No,
again,
Rosario's one of the best hitters in baseball, Anthony. You missed that part. He's a 120 weighted runs created plus guy.
my bad, my bad.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you're
I hear you.
you're going to lose something else if you do that.
Yeah.
And
No,
so
I'm with you.
what's the lesser of two evils there?
Yeah. I think that's the best way of putting it. You're either going to take high defensive bar with Rojas, but low offensive bar, or you're going to risk something defensively, believing that the bat of Pages or the bat of Kike against lefties is going to be like the difference maker for you. And so whether or not that plays out is something to be seen. One other note on this real quick. I'd love to get your thoughts. Mookie's not going to be hitting leadoff. I believe Daniel tweeted out Mookie has hit leadoff basically in every game he's played in since like 2021, I believe was the stat. Are you surprised that we're going to leave Ohtani in the leadoff hole and put Mookie at the 2? Or are you like a who cares type of guy?
I'm kind of a who cares guy,
Yeah.
in all honesty. Um, if you have the best hitter in baseball, I'm all about getting him as many plate appearances as you can.
Yeah.
And people want us to talk about, oh, well, you're going to take away RBI chances from him. I don't care.
Yeah.
I, I don't care. Get him up as many times as you possibly can. There was a time too when everybody thought that your best hitter needed to hit fourth, which meant he might not hit in the first inning. That
Yeah.
so no, that's not something that I'm too concerned about. I am for them continuing to sort of break up the lefty righty stuff. So
Yeah.
hitting Mookie second, not a big deal to me.
Yeah.